I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, September the 6th, brought to you in part by Beaver County Stockyards in Beaver, Oklahoma. Kind of an unassuming small community there. Not much normally going on outside of the Love's country store there or the Pizza Hut, but I tell you what, you get on through town and get to the edge, go out to Beaver County Stockyards, you're going to find an excellent facility with brand new pipe pens throughout, enough to hold 6,000 or 7,000 cattle there. They've got buying power in the sales on Tuesdays. Got a hell of a good market there, especially for the Southern Plains, but really for anywhere. But if you guys are looking for fresh cattle or looking for a place to take fresh cattle, think of Beaver County Stockyards in Beaver, Oklahoma, on the eastern end of the Oklahoma Panhandle or no man's land there. Fall pressure coming from a lot of different directions. Probably the biggest one is our beef cutouts are causing that, giving at least your packers something to blame the tough fight that they've been putting up to keep from having to pay any more for cattle. We've got the late summer fat annual condition that normally your fats are supposed to go down this time of year. They started going down at the end of August because they always go down at the end of August. Not necessarily because this backup was warranted, but that's just the way it is. But you get into an annual thing and people just get used to it and they fell for it, even though the fundamentals did not back it up at all. We've got weather changes already starting to take place. I don't know if it is where you're at, but I tell you what, in the Texas Panhandle, was over in New Mexico over the weekends. It's starting to get cool, pretty darn cool, and these weather changes, it's hard to keep school children from getting sick whenever they get back into class and start mixing germs with each other, and they've got different changes of weather. It's the same on calves, and you start mixing them together. People having trouble with them in many cases, and it's starting to have a little effect on your calf market, even though people really want calves because we know that we're so short on all classes of cattle numbers, but especially on calves, and likely our market's going to be on the upswing for the next 2 to 3 years. Our yearlings have backed off some too, because we've got a lot of our feedlots that go after the premium quality cattle. They're fairly full because they filled up on those cattle, coming off the Flint Hills and coming off the Osage and coming off green grass pastures in the foothills of the Rockies and the Northern Plains and all over. And those guys are fairly full. The cattle that are coming on now, the yearling cattle, a lot of them are fairly plain. Just some clean-up deals or some put-together kind of deals that those guys wouldn't want. And the few cattle that are of premium quality, then you've got enough farmer feeders that are sopping those up before they get too busy with harvest. But our market has backed off here, and we've been going through such a big run-up until last week. We didn't think anything could shut this deal down. I talked about the market being a runaway train and a guy, waving a lantern at it at no avail, but there was nobody up in the driver's seat of the train. It was just a runaway train. There was no need to swing a lantern at it, but by gosh, it came down. And we're in a down market. We've lost money on our fat cattle here for 2 weeks in a row, and not just a smidgen. We've lost significant market position on our fat cattle. Our yearling market is backed up the last couple of weeks. Calves backed up this week finally, with pressure, like I said, from some of your weather conditions and conditions of the calves. There's just a big wide gap between those that are weaned, long time weaned, 45 to 60 days plus weaned, and those that are balling, and those that have their shots and the preconditioned shots, and those that don't. It's the same every year, but we're sure seeing it hit this past week, and it'll continue on until all of them have had snow on their backs or been through a storm or two, and then they'll start to back off of them of those. But from now through pretty much all of fall, you're going to have a long time wean on those calves, and you're going to have significant precondition shots if you want to achieve the top prices. Now, if you're good giving up who knows what kind of a discount, then just sell them. And there's guys that are forced to sell their calves right off the cow due to drought conditions. This year more so than other years, but also just because they don't have the facilities, the manpower, the want to work those calves. And if that's what you have to do, then you just have to take that discount. But guys are looking for calves around, but they're sure going to give more money for those that have had everything done to them. But our fundamentals are still unbelievably strong, even for the short term, the mid-term, and the long term. We've got bullish fundamentals. We're really tight on numbers of cattle in all classes. I would say, especially on our mother beef cows, and that continues to get tighter every day. We have yet to see any significant keeping of heifers for replacement quality heifers, because guys need to cash in on those, kind of get things shored up to start keeping some back. Now, sure, you've got guys on the ranches doing that, but they do that all the time. But I'm talking about guys specifically going out and buying top quality heifers and putting them in some kind of a system where they're going to be getting them into getting them bred and getting them ready to sell to people, either heavy bred or calve those out and sell as young pairs. But we're not seeing a lot of that being done. Most of our best heifers and our best sales are still going to feed because there's a big demand for feeder cattle, because there's not a lot of those out there. There's not a lot of market ready fat cattle out there right now, but somehow our packers have conditioned, especially guys, that are the few guys that are selling cash, that the market needs to be cheaper. They just refuse to pay any higher prices, and even though those cattle feeders realize that we are tight on market ready supplies, they continue to sell them the cattle. Now they're buying lighter numbers of cattle, on the cash market, on the negotiated cash market, because both this week and last week, seeing them pull a lot of contract cattle here, especially here early in this month. They're pulling a lot of them, but they're going to be running out of those. They're going to be needing to buy more cattle on the open market, especially in the northern plains and southern plains. Who knows if they'd ever have to absolutely buy any cattle on the cash market, because they've got such big coffers of captive supplies. But in the northern plains, they're definitely going to have to start buying more cattle on the open market, because they're going to be running out of those captive supplies. But what did we talk about last week? We talked about how your Cattle Price Discovery and Transparency Act has to get passed this month, before the end of the month, for several different reasons that we talked about on a late week visit last week. But we've got to get something done. I'm going to keep you guys abreast of that. If you have a way to get word to your congressman, to your senator, and tell them that we need to get that deal done, please do it, because time is running out. If we don't get it done by the end of September, there was no need to do any of what we've done over the last 2.5 years trying to get it pushed through. Your North and South premium has pretty well dried up, because the northern plains has been taking less money for their fat cattle on a live basis. Southern plains also taking less money, but not in as big a bunches. Just this past week, your southern plains was $1 lower, actually $2 lower on some really late sales there. But the northern plains was sure $2 to $3 lower, and a couple weeks of that has tightened things up from a $10 premium in the north to about $4 or $5. We also saw that our corn is such an uncertainty here until we really get in there and start harvesting some big fields of corn. And I'm not talking about way down south where it's really hard to detect where you're at, but I'm talking about getting up into the Midwest, into the Corn Belt, starting to cut some of those fields and see what they are. Last week or the prior week before last week, we were talking about that crop tour, and gosh, after that thing, we thought the corn was going to be $10 a bushel. And it did go up quite a bit during that week, but this past week, it fell back and then came back later in the week. But we've got so much uncertainty about our corn crop. It's just got our markets very volatile right now, which is a big factor, as you know, on our feeder cattle prices. But we're not sure exactly where we're going here. We just know that we've lost this rally. We've got every right to have that rally coming back, but we just can't quite do that. We've seen some news in some of your startup plants. We saw that the packing plant that they're going to build now for sure in North Platte, Nebraska, sustainable beef. They achieved two big goals last week. One, sufficient funding to get them to breaking ground and building that plant. They were very, very close before. Now with new equity, they have gotten that pushed through. They're moving dirt. This still is going to happen. It's not a pipe dream. They've got the plans together. They got the buildings going up, and this is going to happen. They also, at the same time, found them a huge customer for their beef, which is the biggest problem for these startups, is finding a customer to take that beef, and it all came through Walmart. Walmart invested into that plant along with a lot of local Northern Plains cattle feeders and producers there, and they're also going to be probably the main customer for that top quality beef that they're going to be producing there within just a couple, 3 years, guys. But sure proud of them for getting that done. Let's talk about your board for last week. October live cattle futures. Monday was down 15, Tuesday up 92, Wednesday down $1.25, Thursday up 22 cents, Friday up 175 despite your cash market being lower. But October live cattle ended the week at 144.55. That was up $1.50 for the week. August contracts went off the board at 141.55 on Wednesday. We saw December live cattle futures end the week at 150.25. September feeder cattle contracts, Monday was down 227. Tuesday it came right back up 225. Wednesday was up 27. Thursday was up 70. Friday up 72. September feeder cattle ended the week at 183.87, up $1.67. So we gained there on the futures market because we know that this market's going up. And like I said, short, mid, and long term, it's bullish. We're going to be going up. But just all those fall pressures I talked about have taken the market down both last week and the previous week. But October feeder cattle futures ended the week at 184.95, up $1.55. Corn ended the week, December new crop at 665.75 cents a bushel, up 1.5 cents. Beans up big on Friday, ended the week at 14.20.5, still down 40.75 cents a bushel there for the week, even after Friday being up big like 25 cents. But your fat cattle market through Thursday of this past week, which is all we have the data on for sure to add them all up, we saw that live sales of steers and heifers in your 5-area feeding region ranged from 140 to 145. Pretty narrow range, much more narrow than what we've been seeing. That was $1 to $3 lower. Basically, the Northern Plains trading from 142 to 145, and the Southern Plains at 141 mostly, but did have a few sales there late on Friday at 140. But your weighted average on live sales steers and heifers, or live sales of steers, in your 5-area feeding region, 142.82, down 172 for the week. So we've lost a little more there. Dress sales ranged from 225 to 234, but mostly just 225 to 228 there mid to late week. That's $1 to $5 lower. Your weighted average on dress steers, 228.85, down $4.03 on your dress market. That is a hunk, guys. How about Friday? Any cash trade that we saw in your 5-area feeding region? Of course, Colorado's confidential. Iowa, 900 head of confirmed sales on Friday. Only 16,600 head for the week. Friday sales were 145 live, 225 dressed. Nebraska did not see any confirmed sales on Friday. 27,200 head for the week. That was by far the biggest of your 5 areas, but still light for Nebraska. Southern Plains didn't sell hardly anything. Kansas had 1,000 head of confirmed sales on Friday at 140. That'd be $1 lower than the bulk of the trade through the week. $2 lower than the end of the previous week. 7,400 head is all for the entire week out of Kansas. That is pitiful. Texas, no sales on Friday. 9,100 head for the week. Box beef cutout values, like I said, that's under pressure too. Choice cuts down 356 for the week at 259.73. Selects are actually up, and that's on your weighted average for all of last week's sales. Select weighted average was actually 85 cents higher at 239.07. That's narrowed that choice select spread $20.66. 607 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings. Talk about what else is going on. Lone Star Stockyards in Wildorado, Texas, just west of Amarillo there on I-40. My buddy Bill Martin there is managing that market, doing a good job with it. Having a Customer Appreciation Day sale here today on Tuesday. Starts at 11 o'clock with cows. He's got a couple big consignments of bred cows, and there'll be good quality there. So if you're interested in that, be looking at that. He's got several strings of calves, some weaned, some not. But the quality is really good, and they're local calves. So if you're looking for wheat cattle in the Texas Panhandle, you need to try to buy calves more local. You won't have near as much trouble with them. Even if they're unweaned, you're not going to have as much trouble as trying to ship cattle in from a long ways off. Several strings of yearling cattle, a lot of them right off grass. We had some late moisture, had some grass in this part of Texas, and still coming off there. So, but who says there's no free lunch? There is at Lone Star Stockyards, Wildorado, Texas on Tuesday. And that's on dvauction.com too, guys, if you want to check that out. Talk about your feeder cattle market late in the week last week. Real-time index on DV auction ended the week at 179.89. That was down $1.11 for the week, and it came back strong at the end of the week because of one particular big sale, which we're going to mostly talk about for our feeder cattle markets. But cash feeders last week in your sale barns steady to $3 lower. Calves steady to $5 lower, and that's especially because of poorer quality on the feeders and the calves, and just your overall market. But these calves, just such a wide range between your unweaned ballers that haven't had anything and those that have been straightened out. And you know, you can't guesstimate what cattle are going to bring if you haven't done everything to them. But talk about your Zoetis stick out sale for late last week, and it was on Monday, the holiday, Labor Day holiday. Russell, Iowa, Russell Livestock. They always have a big Labor Day sale. I told you they were going to have it on our last visit. They did have it. They had 6,200 head for their one-day sale there on Labor Day. And of course, you can't really compare a market like that. But what comparisons could have been made to the market that was 2 weeks ago was a little bit uneven. Talked to some of the buyers there that sure knew what was going on and always do. So comparatively, the yearlings sold better than the calves. Quality was top rate all the way through, but comparatively, the yearlings sold better than the calves. And actually, the calves were in an attractive condition. And I said, "What do you mean? That's Iowa. They were fleshy and almost fat." He said, "Nope, they weren't. Not this time. It's been dry in the area. Those cow-calf producers are not buying this high creep feed that they normally do, and just feed costs of all kinds have gone up so much they're not giving them much supplemental feed, and the calves come in a thinner type flesh condition and still add all the quality. So a really good offering there. And you look at this automated market report through Cattle Market Central with DV Auction. You see the Russell livestock sale and about over 6,000 head there. But look at your best tested weights, which were from your lightweights all the way through your heavyweights. Check out the steers, 754 head. 4-weight steers average 451 with a weighted average price of 229.09. 579 head of 5-weight steers average 552 at 208.65 on your weighted average. 467 head of 6-weight steer calves average 638 with a weighted average price on all those 6 weights of $200.39. 450 head of 7-weight steers average 751 with a weighted average price of $190.92. 630 head of 8-weight steers averaged 844 with a weighted average price on all of those 8-weight steers at $184.92. Now your heifers pretty consistently $15 to $20 back. You might think that's pretty steep. That's just that part of the country. If they're going to feed cattle, they'd rather have the steers, and they sell a little better than most places do in comparison to the heifers. But 15 to 20 back on the heifers. A couple of individual quotes out of Russell that I wanted to share. How about 61 head of steers weighed 802 in one deal and bring $189? Be $10 over your index. 60 head of 632 pound steer calves bring $2.15 a pound. Wow. How about a few other individual quotes around the circuit? On Friday, Lexington Livestock Market in Lexington, Nebraska sells 107 head of 503 pound steers at $257.50. Bluegrass Stockyards, Richmond, Kentucky sells 78 steers, weigh 679 at $2 a pound on Friday, standing in the ring in Richmond, Kentucky. But the best quote that I seen anywhere late last week, and your Mackerson, no BS, top quote for the day, come out of Magnus Livestock Market, Huron, South Dakota on Friday. They sell 119 steers, weighed 901 pounds at $189.25. That's your feeder flash for Tuesday.